We only had $46 to my name. I had been trying to get jobs everywhere. I applied to, I think, over 400 jobs. Didn't hear anything back. I mean, all the way down to like Taco Bell. I was like, I need a job kind of level. And we're sitting there broke. And that's when I started Dreambeard, was with $46 on the dining room table in my father-in-law's house.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hustle Up podcast. My name is Clint.
I'm Jonathan.
And every week we're bringing you details on how young hustlers are finding new, innovative, creative ways to make a fortune for themselves and provide for others in the market. Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Ryan Lane, aka Dreambeard. Dream up? Now. He is a creative. He's an entrepreneurial gangster, serial entrepreneur, cool backstory. Ryan, why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, man. I mean, I used to sell beard products and grooming products in over 130 countries, almost 40 countries.
How long is it, by the way?
Man, I mean, I don't know, dude. I mean, when it's wet, it's kind of touching,
it's
you know. But that's when I know to trim it. I'm like, whoa, this is kind of wild. But no, I think it took me about 5 years to grow, and then I've had it for about 8. So I like kind of trim it up every now and then. So. But yeah, man. So I did that for a while, for about 10 years. And then now I have a marketing agency. I did a bunch of entrepreneur stuff, sold and sat on the board of FedEx, the entrepreneur advisory board for a couple years. And then I also had a podcast as well, like I was telling you, and built my Instagram to over 200,000 followers. And yeah, man, I've been doing all kinds of entrepreneur stuff, and then now I've been more in like the creative field, doing a lot of filming for big brands and little brands and everyone in between. And man, I feel like I'm getting to live out my dream now, just kind of, hanging out at a building, being creative every day. Like yesterday I shot a music video, and then the day before that I'll be shooting something else, and then I'm shooting like headshots, and then I'm whatever, editing and creating, documentaries or whatever. So it's like, for me, it's been, I'm in like the most accelerated time of my life. So
that's great.
Awesome.
Great. And how are you finding new clients? Is it word of mouth? Are you getting in front of them through the marketing agency? Like, what's your pipeline look like?
Yeah. So I feel like that even with Dreambeard, it was always about like authenticity and high touch marketing, and really being just like authentic to your story. Cause I think everyone lives by a story, it's like the you that you think you are is just you thinking, right? So it's like, we basically, the way you perceive me and the way he perceives me and the way he perceives me and the way my wife perceives me are all like largely different, you know? And so it's like, which one of you are real? And it's like none of them, but all of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's like relinquishing, really kind of first understanding, reality first, and then like moving from that, so.
Dude, dude, I totally understand everything you were saying. That's crazy. So I want to get into, reality and even more into the nuance of business. But first, let's start with your story, because by taking one quick glance at you, no one would know that you were a pastor for 8 years. So let's talk about that and how you got out of there and got into super entrepreneur mode. Yeah,
man. I mean, it was weird. I think maybe being a pastor, you already have you learn a lot of things that kind of translate in the business world, working with people. And like, I always used to obviously counsel people. So I'm constantly talking to them about their emotions. And so I can understand people and perceive people and pick up on things like maybe, so if I'm in a meeting or whatever, I've always found that even early on, those things kind of translated well into business. But yeah, man, I mean, as far as like leaving the church, like anything scary like that, it wasn't scary. It was gradually, and it was with respect. Like I didn't really have any kind of like hard feelings or like it was just I just began to say what the Bible said: work out your own faith with fear and trembling. So I just like kind of went on my own and discovered my own, like what I would call faith. I think belief is heavy, but faith is maybe like a little loose. So
when you were pastoring, were you also controlling the church's budget and working with tithe money? So yeah, man. And it was very unique to being a pastor because of like the tax-free aspect. And so it's weird because maybe that's why hustling seems so normal to me, because I feel like the structure of a church is
kind of like
It's like
a
a
hustle.
business.
Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like, you know, and it's like, so I felt like at an early age I learned these tendencies to kind of make things work, you know. And so whether it was like budgeting for events that we were having or setting up events, or, you know, because basically especially when I was like a youth pastor, you're promoting a brand. I mean,
Right.
it's the same thing. You got to go to like a youth or a high school or a football game or whatever, you know, and get in front of kids, or word of mouth.
Recruit.
Or
Right.
recruit.
Yeah.
Recruitment's 24/7.
So you specifically said leaving the church, right? So
Yeah.
that, you know, people know what that means, and it doesn't just mean retiring from being a pastor.
Yeah.
So what caused that, and what was your next step after that?
Yeah, man. I mean, it wasn't one thing. It's kind of unique to talk about it now because I'm not like my way's better, you know, like I found
Absolutely.
a better life, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, so it's weird for me to kind of talk about it in that retrospect because it could seem very like negative to people, you know, the way that I view it, but it also isn't. I also can very fully put myself where they are too, because I have been. So it's like, and I understand that I felt very genuine in that place. So why would I, you know, expect them to not be genuine in their
It's not
place,
right
you
or
know?
wrong. It's what feels and works best for you as an individual.
Yeah, it goes back to all perception. Like we're flying on some rock in space, you know? So it's like, for me, I just started thinking differently. Like I got out of that confirmation bias, like group of because you're in like usually a network of friends or, you know, people that all think the same. And that can be even for like goths or geeks or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, it's tribalism. I'm not like downing. It's like, we want to fit in with a crew, you know. We're either like the atheists or the believers, or like I don't believe in anything, but I still believe in not believing in anything, you know. It's like there's like some sort of weird group you get wedged into, and that was a frustration for me because I really felt like that no matter what I do in life, I'm going to be perceived in like as like Superman and a loser and like a liar to some people and this to other people. And it's like, I can't even control it. And so I kind of just gave up a lot. And so I think that's why for me, I went like from super hustle, like Dreambeard was just like blowing up. Like I said, we were in 30 countries in the first 3 months, you know, we like crushed it on Etsy back when that was like a thing. And, you know, we were doing really, really great, you know, I mean, and we were selling all kinds of other stuff, tobacco pipes that were handmade, and, you know, t-shirts that one said, this world's full of guys, be a man. And so like,
Let's go.
That thing sold I think I sold probably 3 million shirts, you know?
Go.
And so like, I mean, at one point there was all kinds of things like that were popping. But then I think after my deconstruction of faith, what mattered to me changed a lot. And so I think that's why where I'm at now in my building now, it's just not, yeah, obviously there's like 3 businesses technically in there: full service marketing, a photography studio, and an event space. And so they all kind of feed each other, and sure, there's like money involved, but it doesn't motivate me anymore. Like I know it's necessary. It's a current, you know, it's currency. It's like an exchange of something. And I realize that no matter what in this reality, we need that, you know.
It's a means to an end, not the end goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, I love using it. You know, we also have a nonprofit. So like our goal is to, you know, give away like houses and crazy stuff, you know, just like really like help people out and help community out. You know, I want to do shoots with like underprivileged kids that, you know, where they get to come into our photography studio and like shoot, you know, a famous rapper or something, and then get to keep the picture, like in a picture with them, and be like, I did, you know, look what I got to do. I got to like meet this person, and I got to make art with them, you know?
Yeah.
And so just kind of creating those kind of opportunities is like really important for me. And so that's kind of what drives me, is that idea that, you know, we're all just, it's more to what like we've kind of created to be, right? The American dream. And so I think for me, I'm in a process of trying to tear that down and allow people to dream a new one.
So what is the American dream to you?
Yeah, well, I think that the American dream is, you know, it's like the standard, you know, raise your kids, go to college so that they can raise their kids and go to college, and, you know, find a job. And, you know, it's just like the typical path is what I would call the American dream. But I also think it's something that's very like new. We don't realize that just a few hundred years ago, this isn't like, you know, churches weren't the way that they were. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the mic, but you know, it's churches weren't always the way that they are now. You know what I mean? Like 100%. Church wasn't always the way it was, and you know, people weren't always the way they are. You know, it's changed a lot, and that's the only real truth I've found now is change. And I think that's nature's delight. And I think we're all changing, our body's changing, our awareness is changing, our experience is changing. And so it seems to be the only thing that like I can actually hold true to. So
our tagline is creating lives by design. And what I love about that is it's different for everybody, right? Like you have this perfect envisionment of the way your life wants to look.
Yeah.
And so for some people, it may be that 9 to 5 and they find ways to express creation in that. And for others, that may be anathema. Like they may hate that. And so they want to go figure out what their path looks like. Yeah. And I noticed, like, it sounds like you're describing the American dream as the white picket fence, 2.5 kids and a Labrador,
9 to 5.
Right? 9 to 5. Yeah. And I'm curious, when you started Dreambeard, were you still in the church? Were you still a pastor?
Excuse me. You
Shout
got
out
me right
Celsius.
in the middle. Yeah. You got me right in the middle of a Celsius, man.
Free ad.
Yeah, I was getting charged up. Sorry. Now I feel like I have to cough. Okay, good. All right. Ask the question again.
That's
Sorry.
a new microaggression.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you're in the church, you start Dreambeard. Dreambeard takes off.
Yeah, I would say a Christian for sure.
Yeah.
I still worked at a church part-time. So I was still like making money from a church here in so yeah.
And then you start to deconstruct your faith, maybe go through an identity shift.
Oh yeah, for sure. Lost friends, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Man. Yeah. And that was also having a son. Dad had cancer. So it was just like a big existential kind of time in my life for sure.
Were you married at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was newly married, probably only maybe a couple years at the time.
And so we're big on mindset, business, fitness, and relationships. On the relationships portion, as you're going through this identity shift, how did your wife process all of this?
That's a great question. It was wild, because everyone's like, yeah, I've got to ride or die, and it's like, I really feel like I can say that my wife is that, she married a pastor and watched him walk away and, eat too many mushrooms and, think too many weird things and chance my life on too many chances, and
Was she religious when y'all first got together?
Very, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she was like the type of person that would, not go hang out with her friends so she could stay home and pray in tongues.
Wow.
So yeah, she was like super religious.
So y'all went through this experience together.
Kind of. I would say that I probably dug the hole and started grabbing her foot, and eventually she was like, okay, and then she like dove in.
Cool.
It's kind of what it felt like. And that she even told me once, she's like, look, I'll get in the car, just like don't rush off so quickly, like kind of give me a chance to like understand this, because I mean the shift was so extreme, that I think anybody that knows me, even from a year ago doesn't even know me now.
Right.
Like the changes like constantly changing.
Any girl who hops in a car like 0 to 60 right at the green light, like
Yeah.
over and over, could get shook for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%, man.
But that's a good analogy. That makes sense. And I'm sure at the same token, she was kind of a grounding mechanism for you as you ventured off down all these new rabbit holes.
Oh yeah.
You still had that fundamental piece of foundation there for you.
Yeah, and I didn't know it at the time, but I look back now and it's like an honor to, March will be 10 years that we've been married. And so, man, that is something that consistent rock is something that like, man, I there's no words, of how awesome she's been. I think it's been strategic in me even being an entrepreneur, because I was living with my father-in-law when we started Dreambeard. We only had $46 to my name. I had been trying to get jobs everywhere. I applied to, I think, over 400 jobs. Didn't hear anything back. I mean, all the way down to like Taco Bell. I was like, I need a job kind of level. And we're sitting there broke. And that's when I started Dreambeard, was with $46 on the dining room table of my father-in-law's house. And so she's always kind of from the beginning. We were only married for like 8 months then. So like, wow. I think from, something like that, but from the very beginning, like she was just ready to rock, So
no pun intended.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a huge part of my life for sure.
So that's awesome. How did you scale Dreambeard from $46 in the beginning to how large did it get? Yeah, so
I started out with basically Etsy. Before that, there was like this weird little website on Facebook that was like trying to do some sort of like e-commerce integration with your Facebook. Now it's kind of like all perfect now, but back then it was like weird, and so it was kind of clunky. So I tried that first, and then I was like, and then someone was like, whoa, have you tried Etsy? And like, to be honest with you, I'm kind of wish I didn't do that. If I could look back now, nothing like super against Etsy, but they take so much from you for what they give. And if you're in a smaller situation, or you just like have like, you know, a little thing you make and you want to sell it, like I think it's actually kind of a really cool platform for that. But once you like hit a certain threshold, which is probably more like 20 grand a year or something like that, if you're like starting to make like that much in your, you know, in your basement, like Etsy's probably not the way to go. And I wish someone would have told me that, because I was more like closer to like $1 million a year before I switched. So I didn't realize that like almost 30% of that was going to Etsy.
Well, this is slick. If anybody's listening in now and maybe they're thinking about getting into e-commerce, or they have a product, what platforms would you suggest starting out on?
Yeah, for sure. I think the big one that I think always rocks, you know, and that we were using last was Shopify. But I do think that Squarespace, so I used to be very anti-Squarespace till I used it for my podcast back in the day. And then I kind of was like, wow, they've really come a long way. But I did have a Squarespace when it first started, and it was very limited. And that was actually the first thing I used when I jumped off Etsy. And it actually was like a huge demise for me, because back then you couldn't even use PayPal as like a payment.
Right.
So it was like super like narrow. And so we found that we ended up we bounced like $100,000 that year at checkout, because of people couldn't, you know, use PayPal. So we switched off of Squarespace then. So, but now I would say, man, it's kind of like vice versa. You know, if we're doing something for a client, I'm going to probably tell them, like, depending on how big you're expecting to be, like what you're trying to sell. Some people are only trying to sell like one product. I mean, Squarespace can do it now. You know what I mean? They have a lot of real nice bells and whistles. So.
Well, let's compare the two. With Etsy, you're getting to take advantage of, much like Amazon or Walmart, you're getting to take advantage of their traffic. So it's possible people might stumble upon your grooming product, right? With Squarespace or Shopify, you would more likely have to run targeted ads, right? To get it in front of people.
Yeah, or social media.
Or social media.
SEO.
Right. So the only thing I didn't like about Etsy, and that's a really great point, is it kind of ended up turning against us. So I think back in the early days, the algorithm seemed actually really beneficial. And you're right. If someone typed in beard or dream, like, you know, my results were going to pop up a lot, especially because at one point I was in the top 10 bath and body on Etsy, you know, in the category. So like we were up there, you know, hundreds of thousands of other people. And so, yeah, I felt like we probably did rank well. But then I think it was around 2014 or 15. They went public. I can't remember what year they went public, but they changed their algorithms. And then so when you typed in dream beard, it would bring in like all these other related products. So it'd show you like all these other beard products. Like, and so it actually ended up kind of like really like not being, like you said, worth the traffic. Cause you're right. I mean, that is kind of the whole point of being on someone else's platform, is like trying to gain some of the traffic, you know, Airbnb, you know, like you're putting your house on Airbnb, because otherwise you got to like, how am I going to tell people I want to rent out my house? You know, it's like, so I get it, you know, and then, but I feel like that in the end, again, if you're really trying to build something that's like $100,000 or more a year, I would say just get a website. Like just go ahead and get a website. And I always said that like what I wish I would have built better was my email list, because basically I was so worried about social media. I grew like this big social media, and I feel like that social media is like renting, and email lists are more like, you know, having a house.
How long ago was this?
When I kind of like
had that epiphany, let's say.
Probably 2 years ago.
Do you feel that still holds today? Do you feel email is the more solid long-term game and social media is more the flyer in the front yard? You check us out.
Yeah, it just depends, like, because the way that things are changing, you know, I mean, if you used to talk about like Moore's Law, you know, like everything's rapidly, I think that Moore's Law has been like shot in the face, you know, it's like, it's basically way more, like it's
Explain
changing
that
faster.
for anyone that may not.
Yeah, Moore's Law, I figure it was like every 3 years or something, does it? I can't remember.
18 months, right?
18 months that like technology just like rapidly triples or something like that. And but now they're saying it does it way more than that.
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, so it's basically the point being that like I don't know if you could ever know fast enough. You know, things are just constantly changing. So
yeah. No, I mean, so do you leverage email marketing?
Oh, yeah.
So you have a full marketing agency. So you're credible to be able to speak on this for sure. So the email piece, the social media piece, have you dabbled in the Discord or, what do you think about
NFTs
where does
and all that kind of different things?
Yeah, well, we could use NFTs as like a different piece, but like with the Discord, because this is something we're trying to figure out right now is, how do we build a more close-knit, engaged community? We have events that do on average 125 to 175 people every time we throw an event.
That's awesome.
We have, our digital side is ramping up and picking up, but how do we keep everyone in our network closer together? Like, is it Discord? Is it a messaging app? Is it Facebook groups? I don't think a lot of people who have brands understand that piece of the funnel.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because I think we're actually in the exact same spot. So, we've only had our doors open at Dream Now, the building, for 3 months. We've had 2 parties and we had about 100 people, like you said, like each time. It's and so we're kind of in the same place of how do we create like a unique platform where people kind of want to keep coming, where people feel safe, where people feel connected, where people feel open. And again, man, I think that that's like what I learned from the church more than anything was that I felt like a lot of the reason why people went was for community. And so I think that the reason why it's probably working for you just as like a very back third party person is like the community, like people identify with what you're doing. And so they're wanting to show up, they're wanting to be a part of that. They're wanting to, and so I say that the stronger that becomes, like in Dreambeard, having selling that many t-shirts off a stupid saying because we also had another t-shirt and a big old description of like a giant lion, and it said like even the animal kingdom knows a beard separates a man from a boy. And it's like, and it's so there was this culture that we had kind of created, obviously, and that's why even after our demise, like I told you guys off the podcast, with like going into 7-figure debt, we still were able to pay all that off just from like just the people that always were with us. Like we literally stopped marketing and stopped spending any money, and like money just still kept coming in.
Well, let's dive into that. All right. So you start Dreambeard, you're running it for 8 years, right?
Yeah. Full time. Yeah.
And at the end, something happens, you go into 7-figure debt and you have to shut down market. You have to figure something out real quick.
I had to let go of people, all kinds of stuff.
Are we talking about accounts? Are we talking like, were you getting product on account? Are we talking about running up credit card debt? What kind of debt?
Yeah. So basically, without getting too much into it with the brands that we were working with and how it all went down, but we were going to sell a product in Target and Walmart and like all the countries basically. And so we were devising kind of like a white label for them. So basically we were creating it and they were going to like put their label on it. And so what happened is that I had a friend involved. So I was just kind of honestly dumb. Like, I mean, I really was like, if you're listening to this, like, don't do what I did, And it's
this
like,
is why it's so helpful.
Yeah. It's like, I just, I kind of turned a blind eye to everything I was signing. I thought it was just like non-disclosure things. Like we just weren't going to like talk about it before it came out kind of thing, And they basically figured out how easy it was to make. And they decided it would be way easier just to do it themselves. And so why it left me in that much debt is because I had to prepare for that. Bigger space, bigger machines, more people. So in that 6-month relationship, I had accrued because our first order was going to like well overpay that off and some. So it was like, I wasn't worried about that, racking that up, because I knew it was like pay to play kind of thing. It was like, okay, we're in the big leagues now. Like I've got
a lot of eggs in one basket.
Like I gotta like, I need a bigger
prepare to scale.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, like prepare, and then it just went boom, and it was almost like they had planned it because of a lot of other things that kind of transpired after that. But so I had to make a decision. Are we gonna just like stop, because that was like a big decision, me and my wife talked about, are we just gonna like shut it down? And then we were like, man, we just have like so many people that love this. We still could probably get by and do this and pay it off. We just won't live like we were. I mean, because at the time I was paying myself probably like $120,000, salary from a business I started with $46. So it was like I had got to like a pretty good place, where I could pay myself and my wife and like our team, whatever, like well. And so, to go from that to like zero, like we basically stopped taking checks, like we just kind of really went, I started doing a lot of subcontracting
So that's how you were surviving.
Yeah, I would work on the outside, hustle basically.
Right. You scramble, you downsize on your fixed costs, maybe sell some of the extra machines. Yeah, get rid of all the unnecessaries and just start moving that product, contracting on.
Went straight into bread and butter. Yeah, we had because our beard oil we manufactured and our shampoo. Everything else was done somewhere else. And so we knew that like those two things we could make the cheapest and make the most money off of. So and that's what always sold the most. So we were like, let's just like not even try to promote this anymore. Like people were buying it because they bought it and they just need it restocked in their like shelf, kind of like that's the kind of clients we had. And so for me, we were just like, let's just do that for a while and see what happens. And so I think at the time when we went into that phase, we weren't really thinking we were going to shut down. We're like, let's just see if we can like turn this like big barge around kind of thing. So there was like some smidge of hope, but it was also like, let's be realistic too. And so we knew it was enough for us to like pay our bills if we just kept going. And so that's we felt like it was better than that. Like if I just stopped it, I was like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like I was a pastor and I don't really have much credentials at the time. So I was like, am I going to work at, Walmart, or am I going to just keep doing what I'm doing and try to pay this off and figure out what I'm going to do with my life? And so that's kind of what I did for like 3 years.
And so a 3-year process, get it paid off and figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So out of that, I'm sure you've got a few new businesses now. Out of that springs the creative energy, creative company, and full service marketing, and you buy an event venue. How did those decisions take place?
Yeah, I think it was all a part of like that awakening, you know, and it's like from, just experiencing things, transcendental things, beings and all that kind of stuff, and really wondering like why we're here and all that kind of stuff. It really just shifted what I cared about, and I know I already kind of like said a little bit of that before, but then I went down like a whack path a little bit where I was like doing acid on podcast, and I'm not currently today, but like, just in case
disclaimer.
Everybody's like,
so this
dude's definitely on something. Well, I mean, I remember going to Adult Swim and being on a show, at Cartoon Network on acid. Like I just was always like doing like weird, crazy things for a while, and I wouldn't really condone it, but I learned a lot from
hustling.
It. And but I learned a lot from it, man, and it changed my perception. So when I went into the creative aspect, I also felt like very unworthy, man. I think it was a part of the process of letting go of that identity crisis that we all are having, that basically we're always playing Halloween, but we only like admit it one day a year. We're always like putting on a mask or playing a role. Y'all are playing the host, I'm playing like the person that's like here to to talk or whatever, and it's like we're all playing a role always. And so man, for me it's just I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Well, the transition into the creative agency.
Gotcha. I'm back on. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned high touch marketing, and it's also in your Instagram profile. What is high touch marketing? Yeah,
so I would say that like it's an example would probably be the easier way to give it to you would be at Dreambeard. We used to do a handwritten note in every package.
Yeah.
So I wrote over 1 million myself while I was working there, and we had someone at one point hired just to do that. And so we were always going like the extra mile. It's like that intimacy, like I was talking about. So it's like you're really bringing people in, that's why the podcast did so well for me, was I was bringing people into this process of like questioning my faith and having shamans on and having doctors on and having yogi people on and Reiki healers on and pastors on and the leader of the Satanic Temple on and like comedians on and all these different people, and just literally always asking them the dumb big questions, because I wanted to just see if I heard hundreds of people talk about what happens when we die, maybe I'll get a glimmer of like some sort of truth between the 300 different perceptions.
What's the thing that exists in all of them?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like it was definitely like some weird like dream that I thought I was going to get to some sort of end of the road, but I just realized that like right now in this moment is the only real thing. Everything but now is a story. The future has yet to unfold. And so if you want to be an entrepreneur, then like become that, because all you do to manifest the future is you just make the best possible decision right now in this moment, and it'll lead to the best possible outcome. And so you don't have to necessarily worry. You just, because I feel like if you look back at your life and you took away worry out of every situation, you'd still be here, like in the exact same place.
Well, yeah, because you have, you can get depressed or upset about the past, and then you become worrisome or anxious about the future, and you completely miss the present moment.
Yeah.
That's why, you said you kicked your sandals off. I'm big on going. It's hard because I live in the city of Atlanta now in a higher up building, but like, it's so important to go outside and kick your shoes off and step in the grass and ground yourself, because you need that, or to meditate. And, I said this on the podcast, but when AJ Jane came on and he's like, everyone has this maybe not so grandiose vision of meditation, but they think at least what they need to do is the 10-minute guided meditation on YouTube. Yeah. But it's even simpler than that. You have 5 senses, eliminate all thought except for, what does that feel like? What does that sound like? What does that smell like, taste like, look like? And you just focus on those one sense, that one sense, and nothing else but that one sense for 10, 15, 20 seconds, and try and do that 10, 15 times throughout your day.
Exactly.
Sadhguru talks really about what it's like to just be a lot too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a good segue into my next question, because I think it's either the number 1 or the number 2 most feared thing in America is public speaking. And I know that you have been on a stage of over 10,000 people in the audience a couple times, right?
Yeah.
How do you ground yourself and prepare for that moment to get up there and deliver something that people can walk away with goosebumps from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like that sometimes I look back and I'm like, man, I could have done better. And then there's sometimes I'm like, blow my own self away, because I'm definitely more of an emotional person. So I'm not going to say that I did it the right way. Yeah. I'm just going to tell you the way that I did it. But I loved how you were kind of explaining. I kind of forgot the like ratio you talked about, but like when we're explaining something, how it's like the inflection and it's this, and then it's like just the little bit is the words, really. Yep. And I really feel like I learned that as a pastor. And so I would obviously kind of have what I had prepared when I go up. I've ran through it in my mind. I've done it out loud. But honestly, when it comes to it, and you step on stage and you ask me if I was a musician, it's kind of like the same feeling. It's like all of that preparation just like melts away, and it's just like go time. And sometimes you choke, and sometimes you don't. Like sometimes you feel comfortable, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel cringy inside, but the audience doesn't, or vice versa. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's a good point.
And so I think like being able to read a crowd is like huge. So it's like anyone can prepare, like, or just like Google enough shit to like have something to say. I mean, dude, it's just it's reality. And so whenever I kind of try to step into something, I try to step into it like with what I have experienced, like that energy, because I think it's the energy that the crowd feels. So if you want them to walk away with goosebumps, like that energy that you're throwing off of yourself is actually what's going to impact them, not just the words. So
absolutely. And this may sound cliche, but I think it's a good way to sum up what you're saying. You're talking with the audience, not to them.
Yes.
And once they start feeling that, authoritarian, like I'm here to tell you something, it's like, all right, I don't give a fuck. I mean, but it's that's interesting that you put it like that. And just to give context about the communication thing you had referenced, it's a statistic that if you break communication down into 100 percentage points, 45% comes from your nonverbal, your body language, 38% comes from your vocal projection, your tonality, your inflections, how you say something. Am I going to say it like this, or am I going to say it like this? And only 7% of communication is what you are actually saying, the content. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I feel like
text me that, because I'm not gonna be able to remember.
I will. I'll definitely.
I have like a terrible memory now. I don't know. Why, but
no, dude. Wild. Because you probably got so much. Because you're so present. It's like the more present I've become, the less of a memory and recallability I've been.
You like kind of relinquish it. It's weird, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's weird. Given it opportunity costs.
So then I wonder, like, is this moment always been, have we always been on this podcast, like in some moment in time, like geographically, like if time's not linear, like, and we just caught up to it finally? Like, do you think we just like, and now we're like in it, and then we
can finally observe it?
Yeah, like we're here, like, and we're like experiencing, we're like lucid dreaming.
Yeah,
like we're like, we realize we're in the dream now, instead of actually just like, so we're like, oh,
you watch TikTok, or TikToks.
Yeah, for
you know how it's like the hat will be frozen here, and here, and the person's like dancing, like in the hat.
as someone who like edits and directs, like I still kind of like dumbfounded how they do that.
Dude, I think it's
on
an
the
app.
phone.
Yeah.
It must be an app.
Yeah, dude, every cool edit you see on those things comes from somebody who just made an app that makes it easy.
Yes, that's it has to be it, because I'm thinking, man, I like am really good with Final Cut Pro and I do not know how to do that.
You use Final Cut Pro over Premiere Pro?
Yeah.
Why is that?
That's a good question. It's really kind of tomato. I feel like I have a lot, especially now at this point, especially with the new M1 coming out. I feel like I've always just loved Mac and the way that it plays. So again, it comes back to that flow state. Everything's like, is it like Fender, Gibson? And it's like, well, it's just what feels good to express yourself, right? And so I think because I've always been in the Mac world from like iPhone 1, it's just kind of a natural thing. I wish that Final Cut would have caught up, and I think it still has some room to catch up to Premiere. Mm-hmm. But I do have Premiere. I have the Adobe Suite, but I think if I was working on a bigger project, I would be more open to Premiere. But to do these like turn and burn, talking about the hustle, it's like most of our stuff is like monthlies for small businesses. One of our businesses is small, Farmers Insurance. We were able to take them out of hundreds of other Farmers Insurance and make them in the top 10 in 1 year. And so we used that through content creation. We made like really wild, cool content.
And a rap.
Yeah, we did a rap with them that was completely custom. I basically wrote the whole rap, did the whole rap, gave them the rap, had them learn the rap, recorded them, produced the rap with their voices, and then produced the entire music video with like their voices on it.
That's insane.
So it was sick, man.
Where can that be seen?
Georgia Followers, I think, has it still up. It had like 50,000 views from that, and then I think on their Facebook, the Willing Agency, Farmers Willing Agency, I think it's pinned at the top. It's like their first video.
So what are the KPIs on something like that? How do you funnel from like what makes that a successful campaign? What does that funnel to?
Yeah.
What are KPIs?
Yeah, so it's like the way I look at things are so much different, man. I don't know if it's like, it's weird to say I'm only 34, so I'm not trying to say like I'm old school, like the way, man, I'm just like back in my day, it's like, that's not kind of how but I always feel like people are always been people, and the way that they always react is the way they react. So I think that what we strategically did with them is we knew it was a small town. It was in Hiram, Dallas area, if you know that area, and if you're listening. And but basically we knew that we could kind of create these like local legends with them. Like we knew that it wouldn't be very hard. And so what we did is we started creating like very cinematic pieces. Like the first piece we ever did was like a Halloween piece, and it was like really huge and like blew everybody out of the water. And then we did like all these other pieces, and we did some like remakes of like Home Alone and blah, blah, blah. And what happened, man, is over a year, like they literally are walking to restaurants and stuff. People are like, oh man, aren't you you're the guys that have that video, and it's like, because it's just, Facebook is where like their demographic is, like, for insurance, it's like 50 to 40.
So were these like 30-second Facebook videos?
Yeah, some of them are like 2-3 minutes. Some of them are like full, like little, shorts that are like, we did like Happy Gilmore remakes during the Masters, and we've done like a bunch of different things like that for them, and original pieces as well. So, but yeah, so what I'm saying is like we do a lot of that is basically for a lot of different businesses. It might be a construction business, it might be, then it might be artistic, it might be for a band or whatever. So it's like it's constantly changing. And so
do you boost those videos? Do you run ads to them, and then do you funnel them into an email list for farmers? Or
yes, thank you for keeping me on point.
No, dude, I know, because you got a lot of knowledge.
I love it.
I got you, man. It's like if we have one job, it's to be like boom, 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 but that way.
I appreciate it so much, man. So going back to like creating these local legends, that's kind of what our scheme was. We knew that like, yes, like we've had engagement, and honestly, we also do a realty company. That's how I know Jot, with Town Club Realty. Okay. So that's my brother-in-law's company, Preston Cowart, and so basically that's one of our companies too that we do ads for. And so for theirs, it works way better to boost it a cool house video, because for some reason like house videos just do really well on Facebook.
House like EDM house?
No, just like house videos of like a walkthrough of like a mansion we're selling. Like people are just like, oh, it's a and they just do so well. So like for them we would do that, but for farmers we might not, our goal might not be a funnel on Facebook. It might be just eyeballs and awareness. It might just be, you see what I'm saying? So
you just want to get impressions for that.
So how do you prove that success though? Like how does someone be like, oh, I have more eyeballs now because of this. Good job, marketing team.
Yeah, traction, like real foreseeable fruits.
Okay.
So it's like you'll know them by their fruits. Like, so I feel like that what's so cool is when you find those kind of companies that trust you, you know, and then you show it by, like I just said, they're like literally seeing the fruits themselves by walking into a restaurant and people are like, man, I seen your video, or calling me and saying, man, I love your videos, you know, and like, so they've had so many instances where people are literally coming to them to get quoted because of that. And so now they've kind of, I mean, even Rob is their top salesman. He's one of our big, you know, guys on camera, and we didn't know this, but like he could, you know, ride four-wheelers his whole life. So we just did a bit on like, you know, insuring like small motor vehicle type stuff. And the dude was literally doing like Supermans like across the field and shit.
Sick.
And it like blew up. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like we had like 4K summers of this dude, you know, in his like 30, 40s, like just, you know, Supermaning on a, you know, and so we just do all kinds of random things that we feel will work. Now for certain companies, it really is about a funnel, you know, and it is very strategic but I think that we have always been kind of a more creative team. So like our marketing's always leaning more towards like, how can we tell the story for you that's going to resonate to your target audience? Like, how are we going to, like, it's cool if we can like get their eyeballs, but like, how can we move them? Like you said, how do we give them chills? Like, you know, when they see your product and when they see what you're trying to sell. And that's what I think sets us apart from a lot of other marketing agencies in, you know, in the area. So
That's like, yeah.
I like what you said too about storytelling. Your storytelling, whether it's through pictures or camera, you're getting across a message that's going to resonate with the target market.
Exactly.
Definitely. What's your most viral piece of content?
Oh man. Oh, I don't know, man. I was a meme once a long time ago. Me and
You
my friend,
personally?
Yeah, me and my friend were these two bearded guys. We were on like one of those, you know, those at a kid's playground. They have like kind of like the big springs, and it kind of goes.
Yeah,
back
you
and forth.
pull each. Yeah.
I was like on the back with him, and it was like a little T-Rex, and I was like, we were flinging back and like that, and it said the first 40 years of childhood are always the hardest. And it was like, and it just like blew up. That was like really crazy. I was like, right, man, like a long time ago. But I've had like different videos that have done really big. I've been in like a FedEx, because I was a part of FedEx. They did like a commercial for me that like did a bunch of stuff. I've produced some bigger stuff. I did a music video with some friends that are all in different metal bands. They got together and made this like kind of funny bro country band for Crocs. And so so Crocs posted it, and it was like a big thing, and we all got a bunch of free Crocs. And so that one like really blew up.
What is big to you? Like, is it 1 million impressions, a billion impressions?
No, not billion.
Somewhere in
millions.
between.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Billions would be crazy.
Yeah,
That would
that's
be-
just insane.
That would be cool, man. Yeah, no,
Small fraction.
no
of-
Gungam like level or whatever.
Right,
like,
dude? I can't believe that, dude. It's crazy what the human nature will cling to and be
Yeah.
like, we all love this.
Yeah, what resonates?
Yeah, Gangnam style. Like,
It's weird, man.
I mean, I didn't turn it off for a while when I first saw it, so I can't, you know. But I don't know. I would love to hear like a neuroscientist break down why all humans were like, Gangnam style.
Yes, Gangnam style. Dude, that's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, honestly, reality itself is weird. Like what we're doing right now is weird. Like,
Why do you say
everything-
that?
I just think it's like it's like, you know what Albert Einstein says, it's better to have imagination than knowledge, you know. And it's like, if you think about it, everything that's in this room has been imagined by a human being, you know what I mean? And so it's like everything about it's weird to me. I mean, like what we are, I'm sure, have you watched the new Fantastic Fungi that was on Netflix?
Dude, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like we're all mycelium, you know. And it's like, that's what I wanted to say, but I didn't know if, you know, it's like, yeah, you find out that we're like more bacteria than human cells, and that like everything we've ever known was a lie from probably some old white dude that just told us how to, you know what I mean? It's like, so we're in this weird generation where like we're really realizing we kind of were in a matrix, like a matrix of the mind. And that's what I mean by the American dream.
The
It's like
Great
you're born,
Awakening.
yeah, you're like born into this constructed reality, like a video game. Your parents are your tutorial. And so you don't know how good of a tutorial you're getting before you go into the video game. It could be super shitty. You could be set up with all tons of swords and magic and stuff, and you're like ready to kick ass. But like it's like super unfair, you know?
Yeah.
And I would love to create a culture where it's not, again, you know, we're not teaching 1, 2, 3, because now we have calculators and AI that do it way faster, better. Now it's more about like, how do I have mindfulness? How do I not have depression? How do I create?
How do I think about things?
Yeah, how do I think about thinking? What do I even think about thinking? Like, what is awareness? You know, and it's like, kind of constructing what we all are, which is like some sort of weird God that's creating our own personal solitary confinement reality, you know? And it's like, it's, you know, and so it's weird because really right now I'm actually just experiencing myself through y'all. Like I'm bouncing off of y'all and it's like, and I'm experiencing it.
I like to think we're the universe experiencing itself.
Yes.
Right?
I totally,
different expressions.
Totally agree with that, man. I think we are just like some sort of witnesser. Like I'm not Ryan. It's like, you know, there's meditations where it's like you're supposed to say like, I am Ryan Lane, I am Ryan, I am, I, and then you just go ahum. And I think that's what we are, is like the thing beyond the I. And so, and then when you get to that level, that's when we're all the same thing. Yeah. And then like you said, you know, the universe experiencing itself in a multitude of ways. So yeah, I mean, after reading everything, I agree. That's pretty as close as we know now as humans. Maybe in like 100 years or 100,000 years, we'll be like, man, those guys were archaic, you know,
branches off the same tree.
Man, it'd be crazy if they're talking like that, saying they're archaic.
Man, I swear, them boys,
that's like 1.5 million years down the line.
Boy, didn't know what the hell they were talking.
No,
aliens come here,
right? Dude, I totally got an affirmation. One of mine every morning too is I'm a special, one of a kind miracle, but I'm also a humble, microscopic piece of not shit. And it's like, but remembering that dude, that's what the whole thing is about, is that duality.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, staying humble. And that's, dude, yes, all of that is true, man. And, you know, me and my wife always talk about that a lot. We're constantly like saying how it's so funny how humans, we think we're the average size. I'm like, we don't even know what that is. Like we could be the smallest thing in the cosmos. You know what I mean? For all we know, like we're just like, you know, Earth could be like nothing. But it's just funny how we have these preconceived ideas. So we always try to wrap our heads back around that. That's why I was saying, you know, we're molecules that have momentarily come together, flying 67,000 miles an hour around the sun, floating on tectonic plates of lava. It's like, I really don't know what we are. Like I don't, and I'm okay with that now. Yeah. And I don't think we ever lived or died. I think that's just like another experience that we experience. And then our meat body just kind of like falls off. But like we've probably been in that state from what happens before birth a lot longer than we've been here. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so it's
definitely.
It's like, why fear that? You know, it seems like that's like a pretty comfortable place to be. And so, and everything, you know, I think it's like meditation. It's like breathing. Everything's a sensation that rises and falls. So it's just like, you know, everything's just like a
it's like a wave function.
Anxiety, all these different things, fear.
But you know, there's things that can make it more smooth, right? So the inevitability is that your life is gonna go like this, you know, is gonna move like oscillate like a wave function, right? Yeah. But how volatile do you want that to be? Because if you can maintain an equilibrium where you stay humble at your highs and optimistic or high at your lows, then I feel your journey could be more like this 100%. As opposed to like that.
100%.
Well, the downside to that is our capacity for joy, pleasure, love is in direct proportion to the amount of pain we've experienced or the depth of that valley, right? Yeah. So understanding where they go and then trying to minimize the oscillation.
Yeah,
right? Find steadiness.
Yeah, understand where it goes and staying disciplined to maintaining the balance you want. Whereas like if you're and I'm not saying be stoic, because I feel stoicism is just that flat line. It's that I'm gonna ride the equilibrium with no ups or downs. But I also don't want to be like one of those people who get overly excited and overly joyful and make bad choices or just lose awareness.
A lot like me. He's really excited. Doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm like, shit, dude. He's like preaching me.
No, dude, I do. I mean,
fits, bro.
I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean, and then at the same token, hitting those lows and you fall into that state and you can't pull yourself out, or you think that there's no hope.
Well, the one thing we know is that life is going to push us. At some point, we're going to have challenges, tests. We're going to experience pain. We might not even have a capacity to realize right now. So when you're pushing yourself, when you're challenging yourself, when you're preparing, you're better equipped, better suited for when those challenges do arise. You can push back a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I love that.
You had your podcast and you were looking for that one fundamental thing. What was the closest you found to it? What do you think is the afterlife from and I'm not looking for like a macro or like the Webster's dictionary, like what, from everything all the information you've taken in, how would you say the afterlife is?
I just think it's, man, and I hope I'm not like being cliche, but I really do believe it's beyond words. And so after all of that I've experienced and everything I've learned and all the books I've read, I think they just pale in comparison to what it really is. And so it's like one of those things where, man, we could spend hours on like, is it a simulation? Is it a, is it this? Is it that? Is it like, gold streets, in the clouds? Is it aliens? Is it like, blah, 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 different dimensions? And I've like contemplated all that kind of stuff. But I think that it's not bad. And I think that we'll never really be able to understand it in this version. Like it's almost kind of meant to, like where it's kind of like the idea of like your pointer finger can't touch itself. It's just like that thing that's so there but it can't ever happen kind of thing, Yeah. And so it's just like it's like so close but yet so far. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe science will answer the unanswered questions. I mean, I know that we can look back in time through telescopes and see light that's millions of years old. Right. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe they'll figure it out. They're like, yeah, man, there was this white guy and he was drinking a Bud Light and he just said like, hell yeah, let there be light. And it's just like, it's just like, and then he nutted everywhere and the stars were created. It's like, I don't know, dude. Like, who knows? Like, I don't know. So,
or they'll say it's something like quantum. Like the best we can do is tell you that it changes once it's observed.
That's it, and that's honestly, I feel like it. Multi dimensions make the most sense to me. Like string, fractals.
Right.
That's what I really feel like. That everything is that you're basically a fractal from which you're being viewed. Like and right now we're just getting to view you in this one little tiny aspect, but you're really just like so much bigger.
Dude, some people are listening like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Exactly. Dude, you want fucking $1 million and listen to us, man. Like,
Well, hey, for anyone who is listening, like, what are they talking about? Who would you send them to watch YouTube videos or read books about to kind of understand the language we're
you mentioned Shad Guru. He's really cool. Deepak Chopra, Alan Watts, I really love because he kind of shared the same background as me. He was in the ministry, and his wife did divorce him. And now I'm actually reading one of his older books right now. During that time that he divorced, he wrote a book called The Wisdom of Insecurities, and it's a hitter. So I'm listening to that one right now, and also Deepak Chopra, and it's called God. And it's like mind blending. And so yeah, I'm always reading stuff like that, Ram Dass, all that kind of stuff.
Do you read, or are you an Audible guy?
Mostly Audible because of my lifestyle. And I have a 30-minute drive to work. So it's like, or to the building, And so I like that. But man, I don't know. I go through phases. Like I definitely have physical books too. Sometimes I'll get addicted to a book and read it physically and listen to it, like, and just kind of chew into it. So, but
yeah. Tell us about your, and we're getting close. We got about 9-10 minutes left.
Yeah.
What tell us about the nonprofit.
Oh yeah, 6'2". So basically the four of us that own Dream Now, we basically formed also just a nonprofit attached to that. And that was really kind of started from the other two owners, Brent and Alex. And after they explained it to me, I was like, why wouldn't I do this? It's like basically for them, because they come from more of a Christian background, their meaning of it really was Galatians 6:2. So it's just simply to carry each other's burdens. And so I was like, why can't I get behind that? And so that's what 6'2" meant. And so for me, it's really, again, like a bigger picture than just money. I believe that like, if you really want to be rich, then you better like give a lot. Cause I think that like karma and the loop, it basically gets stopped up. So it's like when bhikkhus in Buddhism go down to the, like once a year to the streets to like allow people to give them gifts because they understand that like receiving is like the empowerment of that karmic loop.
Balance.
Yes, to keep that balance going.
Interesting.
So I think it's, again, we've talked a lot about duality. So it's
right.
I mean, it's it's just what we do. So
Dude.
Well, a lot of people feel guilty making a certain amount of money, knowing that there's that much suffering out there.
Yeah.
And so the same way that waging war or playing war games in business can, in some ways, it has been said, corrupt the soul, giving back, charity, tithing, whatever, wherever you fall on that, frees you in a lot of aspects.
I agree with that, man.
I like that a lot.
I also think even just like your time, it's like, that's why I said, for 6'2", it's not just like giving money, but we want to like hold cool events for the younger generation. Again, trying to change that American dream we were talking about. That conditioned reality is really what I'm saying when I talk about the American dream. And so it's like, I want to be a little bit a part of that. I realize that I can't end racism by myself, and I can't, end all these like things that have been really prevalent in our time. but like I can at least be like a little brick. Like I can be that little ripple, you know, as
well, I also think it's more impactful, you know, in a business sense. We had the owner of Cloud9 come on here, and his podcast was titled Riches Are in the Niches. And it's the same thing applicable to this. Like you could make the most impact locally. You know, there's even the think global, build local, but even if you just thought and built local, you were still making a tremendous amount of impact. And, you know, Tupac was famous for saying that I may not be the lighter or the spark, or I may not be the flame that lights the world, but I could spark it.
Yeah.
And I could trigger that person. I liked what you were kind of breaking it down in more depth before the podcast, having, you know, kids and maybe from lower income areas come in and be able to make a hit song with that famous record producer, or be able to come in, you know, you guys have a hit artist in there and be able to do a photo shoot with them, and kind of mending that bridge in a non-evasive way for the person who's had better cards dealt. Yeah. And in return, the person who's had the not as good cards dealt have some experiences that may have only been fathomable while they were dreaming.
Exactly. Like trap dreams, right? And so it's like the way I see it is those are all very valid. And I love that it's like a real discussion, but I think it's even cool that we've talked about even a little bit here today is that like we're all trapped in that dream. Like it's all a trap dream. Like we've all been basically lied to control us into like a certain type of system. And so I think that like breaking that down, you see that with cryptocurrency and all that kind of stuff. Like everything's an illusion, we're finding out. And so it's really exciting to be a part of this, because now we get to be the storytellers. You know, we get to help condition the youth. And so it's like, that's really important to me, because I think that like the older you get, you realize like, oh shit, like we're the ones driving the ship now. And it's like, if we don't like figure this shit out, then like we're just really like, it's kind of what the one generation tolerates, the next embraces. So it's like, you know, it's idiocracy, right? If you watch the 90s movie, it's like if we're not careful and we don't lead the generations into something like, you know, better, then it's just going to go backwards.
That,
you know, we're going to regress.
Terrifying in the funniest way.
Yeah. The first like 20 minutes, you're like,
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, dude, you got to check it out, man.
It's like an old 90s movie. It's really good.
It's crazy.
One more time. What is it?
Idiocracy.
Yeah. Dude, awesome. So I guess my last question is, and if you have more, you know, my last question is, you know, you started as the pastor, then you had your awakening experience, and then you had the dream beard, and then you had Dream On, right?
Dream Now.
Dream Now. I'm sorry. Dream Now now you're starting the nonprofit as part of Dream Now. From each of those steps, what were the transferable skills that you got jumping from each one?
Yeah, man. I think like being a chameleon.
Yeah.
You know, I know it sounds crazy, but you know, even when I was a youth pastor, like you have to learn how to change the way you talk to each person. Like you start realizing as a leader that each person needs to be led differently. You know what I mean? Some people need more constructive criticism. Some people don't need to be talked to at all. Some people really need to be micromanaged. And so I think that from an early age, I learned how to identify types of people, what their needs were. And so I think that made me really powerful when I started identifying who could be like my employees. And so I always was able to nail down like A+ type people, which always like provided an A+ experience, which always made my businesses better. So I think that was like a real transferable thing that even still to this day, you know, it's like we have interns, and it's like I kind of go on the path of like South Park. The reason why they're so great is because they can create an episode in 6 days, and they're like the fastest and best writers like some of us have ever seen in our lives. And it's like they uphold that, you know what I mean? Like all their workers. So it's like for us, that's kind of the same way. Like we want, you know, if we're putting a video, you know, creating a music video, if we're building a website or whatever it is we're doing, you know, we want to do it with excellence. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what hopefully sets us apart.
Yeah, adaptability, knowing people, knowing what drives people, you know, good management skills.
Yeah.
And recruitment skills.
Yeah, and I think even just being a visionary, man, I think if you can like, and it, like I said, you know, imagination more than wisdom or knowledge, because, you know, being able to see things and make them exist, it's like Apple, it's like all these things that never existed till someone saw them and made them exist. And so it's like, I think that's really imperative if you're listening, that like you're not so caught up in like 1, 2, 3 how to be an entrepreneur books, like, but you're also caught up in like who you are as a person and like why you're even interested in being an entrepreneur, you know, and like those kind of questions. Because I think that's what's really going to set people apart. Everything's getting automated. Tesla's coming out with robots. Like, it's like, it's like everything, like what we used to hold so near and dear, like the commercialism and the industrial revolution is like gone. Like I've been saying this for years, that people are going to have to learn to not find identity in what they do. Like when you go to a party and people are like, so what do you do? It's like the first question they ask. It's like, we're going to have to change that, because that's why people are going to be so depressed when they realize that what you do doesn't matter anymore. Like, so what you get to do is anything. You get to just be a creative. You get to explore this. You get to, whatever, like be a musician, be a whatever. But like all the things that we thought we needed, to live life is going to be kind of taken care for, of us if we don't blow ourselves up, right?
You think a better question instead of what do you do would be, what do you love to do?
Yeah, that's a good,
Or we have a lot of creatives in our network, and so something I've started hearing at parties a lot is, what's your medium?
Are you? I like that.
Are you
That's
painting,
cool.
or you film,
that's
or
great.
you sing? Like, different
That's
for everybody, right?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great, because that's again, deconstructing the reality we used to live in, where it was like, my daddy did it this way and his daddy did it this way, and I'm gonna do it that way. And it's like, now we're left with like this beautiful thing called the internet that's not also beautiful, but it's given us the ability to see things in a multitude, again, fractal way, which opens up so many more opportunities for everybody. And so there's a lot of good that comes from it too. So.
It's got its duality, but for sure, it definitely has the powers that be shook.
Oh yeah, social media in general is wild. I mean, oh my gosh, man.
I got a last question from my end on social media. You said you've built your Instagram up to 200,000+ followers. How important has the personal brand been, or how much do you attribute your success to building a personal brand, whether that's in Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or any of that?
I think initially it was really important. I think we started our Instagram, it was the year it came out, so I can't remember, man, off the top of my dome, but we had it so early that I thought it was actually a filter program that you would put your picture in and then like change the filter. I didn't even realize other people could see it.
That was the best part. Yeah.
I was like, what the heck? This is like, like Johnny sees this. I'm like in the bathroom with my shirt on, like, I'm just kidding. I'm just a youth pastor, just like, just trying to find me a wife.
That's funny, dude.
But no, man, yeah. So it's like, for me, but I think that the world is changing so fast, and I don't think putting all your eggs in a basket of social media is again the way anymore.
Right.
I think honestly, guerrilla marketing and a great product is never failed. You know what I mean? Like having something that's really worth people's time and gets them excited, and then people telling people about it. Like that's the most powerful thing. That's what happened with Dreambeard. We never used Google Ads. Like we boosted our posts. That was like basically it. And then every now and then, like some ads on social media, and we did that for like years.
Rock on. Now, how did you increase your Instagram's following? Just
I think I was really lucky that I started in the beginning, because I think if you tell anybody that started in the beginning, whenever we would get a tag from like an Instagram with 30,000 followers or 40,000 followers, we would get like 1,000 followers from that. Like no joke. Like
wow.
you would because I've done like we've done stuff with some really big names, like Billy Gibbons and whatever. And so like when those kind of people like shout you out or whatever, back in the day, it really mattered. Now I have friends with, 800,000 followers or whatever, and they'll tag me in something and I'll get like 1 follower from it.
Right.
And it's just like, so I think that the way that people use social media has changed so much now. So I think I got lucky in that initial part where people were just like following whatever, you know what I mean? They're just like, yeah, man, I'm going to follow like all these different things and like it, and it's like, I'm a part of it, and but then everybody saw past the curtain that it was a facade, that these brands didn't really want to be your friend. They just wanted your money or whatever it was, And so I think people are more weary now, and they're looking again for like authenticity, stuff like that, So
That's crazy. Well, since you mentioned it earlier and I just remembered, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask, where are you at with NFTs?
Oh man, we have a friend of mine come, and we were trying to do this thing where he has like a room with all these cameras that creates like a 3D composite of a musician, so someone can like in VR watch like a live session of someone and like walk around them and stuff like that. And then we were trying to do NFTs with like either Lenny Kravitz or like Cardi B and stuff like that, and sell them, and make like millions kind of thing. And we've been looking into it, but I just don't know, man, because I feel kind of old. I feel like maybe I'm just like, again, you know, one of those like whippersnappers. I'm like, man, I don't know. You know, it's like, you know, it's kind of like one of those things. Is it just a gold rush of like now, and it's just like a few people are going to profit from it, and then
well, it could be. I mean, I have an NFT company, a marketplace I'm making as a side hustle, and part of the way I pitch it is, you know, you look at the internet, same thing, right? Even Bill Gates was like, the internet's not here to stay, whatever.
Yeah, that's good, man.
And and so everyone went and got domain names, and, you know, your domain name lost value or gained value. But if you didn't have an actual business behind it, if you had ladder.com, but you didn't have a ladder business, a ladder business bought you or bought your domain, right? And NFTs are the same thing. Everyone's getting, you know, hyped up about, oh, you can turn content into currency, but you got to look at what the technology is fundamentally doing, not why is a piece of a song or a piece of 3D graphics going for $180,000. That's the now. Yeah. But fundamentally, how is this technology shifting human interactions?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so
cool.
We'll
chat more about it offline.
Dude, please, man. Yeah, dude.
But dude, awesome, man. Love your story.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
It's really incredible to hear how you could go from being a pasture and then, you know, your life almost kind of implodes, and how you come back up and rise from the ashes like a phoenix.
Dude,
and
I
then,
appreciate it.
Yeah, right. And then you roll
It
out.
didn't feel like that at the time.
Well, hey, in hindsight, dude, but in hindsight,
it necessarily
does.
supposed to,
You're
right?
Yeah.
I think that's what
You're
gives the rise or the backstory even more power.
Yeah, man.
Dude, precisely. And then to go on and from in your next thing within a couple of years after that, be on a stage in front of tens of thousands, having a product that's sold in 140 plus countries, over 1 million t-shirts, which I love the message, because there are a lot of guys in this world and we do need more men. Yeah. And that's another offline conversation or podcast number 2 conversation. And then, you know, doing the nonprofit thing, you know, we totally identify with that.
That's super cool.
That's amazing, man. And then your mindset and where you're at, and the law of duality. It's one of the 7 hermetic principles. You know, the law of duality, we don't even need to run
karma,
through.
all that stuff.
Karma,
Shot Guru talks. I love his karma book,
man. Dude, it is our dream to have him on here one day.
Oh, dude. Man.
Yeah.
Please let me like roll out a carpet when he comes. Or
Let
me like spit on his like shoes.
Dude, for real.
That dude's legit.
I don't think he wears shoes. And spits on his feet. And I know for sure that he would make us do the podcast outside.
Oh yeah.
Because he was on, you know, Logan Paul.
Yeah,
he was on Impulsive, and they made him do the podcast outside.
Really?
Yeah.
They were tripping because there were a bunch of airplanes that were going over. They're not used to that.
Wow.
Yeah. Not literally tripping, but
you
never know. You
never know. I think
No, but dude, thank you so much for coming on it. Where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I really, you know, I still definitely use my personal Instagram, Dreambeard. I mainly just, it's kind of more of like a portfolio now. I do post stories, but Dream Now Creative Instagram is the one where, you know, we're posting more of what's happening at the building. You know, if you want to know the events that we have going on, man, I'd love to have like host you guys sometime, you know, but we do, you know, band events, comedy nights. We might have like mixer nights, galleries. And so you can really find that out, or at dreamnowteam.com as well, or Atlanta cycloramawall.com as well.
Nice.
So any of those places, you know, can kind of like funnel in with what we're doing. I think the next thing we're doing is the 25th. We're doing a gallery that's really cool called Candy Hell. And then we're doing another one. I think the second weekend in October is going to be a big party, like a Halloween party.
Dude, that's awesome. That's super exciting.
Come out. Yeah, it's gonna be sick.
We'll definitely be there.
Yep.
Yeah, if we're in town, we'll definitely be there. 100%, dude.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah. And shout out Preston Smith, old fraternity brother who works with me.
Yeah, dude, he's one of my co-owners, dude. He's super cool, and yeah, we bro out like every day, dude. It's fun, man. I can't believe
we're gonna come bro out with you guys,
dude,
soon.
Please,
sooner than later, bro.
Please, man.
Keep more of this conversation. Yeah. Well, guys, you guys know where to find us at HSTLUP, www.hstlup. Subscribe, like, share, follow. You know the drill. We really appreciate it. It's all we ask for, and we will keep awesome guests coming in over and over again.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Clint.
Until next time, hustle up.